Hi everyone, welcome. So I made a post recently here on YouTube asking what is a challenge or problem you're experiencing as a GM or a player. This could be related to D&D or just RPGs in general, in that I'm wanting to make a video giving advice. So here's that video. I've selected a few of the responses that people commented. There was a lot of good comments, so there's no way I can do all that in just one video. Maybe I'll make some more of these videos. Actually, I do have plans to make another one that's a little bit different than this one. It's actually going over my adventure creation process / dungeon design process. But that's going to be a really big video that really is devoted to just that one topic. But I'm going to answer a few of the other ones here in this video. So let's jump into it. Scarlet Vecna asks, this is a very personal problem, but as a DM that likes to DM for his friends, I run into a problem where some players are not as story invested as the others. I try to write in a manner that they said they would like, but even when the story is built for their specific wants, they just still don't bite. Feels bad, man. Okay, yeah, that does feel bad, especially if you have been spending time writing. So I'm just going to assume here that you are a writer. You're like somebody who likes to write, who spends time writing, who pursues that skill, who pursues that passion. So that's my response is going to be with that premise, and that seems to be what you're indicating here. They might not be that kind of player. There are different kinds of players when it comes to tabletop role-playing games. So whereas you might be a storyteller as a GM, they might not be storyteller players, or maybe not all of them are storyteller players. So there's many different articles and videos out there that you can read that categorize players into different kinds of categories. So the storyteller player likes to not only tell stories, maybe likes to write stories, likes to have quite a bit of story going on in the campaign, cares about the story, wants to see what's going to happen in the story, wants to see what's next in the plot, probably is somebody who really likes lore, or the lore matters a lot for this person. And you can be sure that that player is going to have some kind of backstory going on, maybe has even created some, fictional adventures that the character has previously been on. Then there is the actor, someone who likes to really be in character, likes to use a voice, likes to be theatrical, probably enjoys being in the spotlight a good amount of the time. The instigator likes to push buttons, likes to ruffle feathers, likes to throw switches and levers and go wandering off into some area and drink the mysterious potion, wants to tamper with things, wants to be kind of a rascal, wants to be an experimenter, just wants to see what's going to happen in this strange, magical, imaginary world. The power gamer, this is kind of an infamous one, or one that we all know of, the player who really likes to design very intentionally, maybe even in a methodical way, a very powerful character, maybe is going to look up different combos or character builds and wants to be the one who just brings the full force, brings the A game in the combat encounters, and is this glorious victor. Probably a more competitive type of person, someone who likes to win. Somewhat related to the power gamer is the tactician, someone who's really into the tactics and the strategy of the game. Wants to make these interesting decisions on a turn-by-turn, round-by-round basis, probably gives suggestions or maybe even commands to the other players, telling them to do these optimal decisions in the middle of combat. The tactician, however, is not necessarily a power gamer. I've seen plenty of tacticians that like to try out strange character builds, suboptimal characters, underpowered characters, and they enjoyed that challenge of, making it through the dungeon or through the different encounters, relying upon their strategies, their decisions, their cunning, their wits in order to make it through. And I think that is a pretty interesting way to play. There's the rules lawyer, somebody who's really into reading all the different mechanics and rules and by the book information of the game, and then is always trying to argue that things should be one way or another, whether the rules lawyer is, quote unquote, right or not. And there are also casual players, people that they're just happy to be there hanging out. They're hanging out with their friends, eating some snacks, having a good time, and that's really enough for them, and that's fine as well. None of these different player types are inherently bad. They're just kind of different preferences and different tastes. So it might be a case that the players in your group just really are not storytellers. Are they respectful? Are they respectful of your story? Are they just kind of neutral and are like, whatever, take it or leave it? Or are they disrespectful? Like, are they rude to you, mean to you? As long as they're being respectful, then I hope you can find some way through the solution. If they're not being respectful, then you've got a much bigger issue going on here, and you're going to need to have a conversation, a serious conversation with your friends. I also want to tell you that it's okay to try playing with other people, maybe some people that are, kind of semi-friends, acquaintances, or maybe even meet some new people. That's fine. You don't have to just exclusively play with this one familiar friend group. I remember that for the longest time, that's what I did. I just played with my friends who I was familiar with and comfortable with. But eventually I branched out and I met other people. And when you meet people that mesh with you better, that have similar desires and preferences, and other people that they appreciate the writing and the storytelling and they're into that lore and world crafting bit, you might find that you like playing so much more. I'll never forget the first time I ever played an adventure with a group of people that were like-minded with me, that had similar interests or similar styles, and we meshed together really well. It was just an absolute delight. All right, the next comment comes from Coyotes. Being able to play as often as I want. With my life schedule, I would love to find a good play-by-post. Even this month, when I got together with my monthly group, no one was ready to play other than the GM, so we just sat around helping each other make characters. That is frustrating. Yeah, that is very frustrating and disappointing. My first two attempts to play Dungeons and Dragons, my first two brushes with D&D were somewhat similar to that. One was a guy that I worked with was a dungeon master, and he was always telling me about, running these adventures, running these games, and he played a lot of sessions kind of all the time. And I was saying, I've been wanting to play D&D for my whole life, actual D&D, because I played lots of other games that were inspired by D&D. So we got together and we spent all this time to make my character. I believe it was 2nd edition, and I made a thief, and he answered a bunch of my questions. And then I never actually got to play. He kept putting it off, and then there was all these excuses and blah, blah, blah. I never actually got to play the damn game. And then my second brush with D&D, as I went to a friend's house one night, he invited me to come over for a hangout night. I get there, and they're all sitting around making Dungeons and Dragons characters. And I said, "Oh, awesome. I've been wanting to play D&D for so long now. Great." And they look at me, and they're like, "Oh, well, we've got this full party already, so we can't really have anyone else in." And I'm like, what? What kind of game is this? I came to hang out and I can't play it with you guys? And they spent all evening, 2 or 3 hours just making these characters. And then they never even actually played the game. So with your complicated schedule, you might want to do a West Marches style game. I'm not going to be able to delve into all the different facets of West Marches in just this video, and there's some other videos out there and plenty of articles where you can read about it, and that is potentially a good solution for you. I'll give you just a little bit based on the community campaign, aka the Living World campaign called Myriad Legends, that I coordinate on my Discord. So we have a lot of DMs and a lot of players, a whole bunch of people all together in this persistent living world of Ikoros. And the majority of GMs, they will prepare their adventures, whether they're one-shots or sometimes full adventures, and then they'll make these adventure posts. I'll show it here on the screen. And the adventure posts say when the GM is going to run this session, and then players join that session, you sign up for it. So the GM just kind of sets a schedule and just picks, when he's going to run the game or run a session based on his schedule, and then players join. Different GMs run adventures in different parts of the world. It's a really cool community. It's not just a West Marches game. It's really a Living World campaign. And then within that, there are some GMs that run West Marches style. In fact, some GMs in West Marches have the players handle the scheduling and the assembling of the party. Though it sounds like in your case, you would like the method where the GM in advance posts a session of when he's going to run it, and then the players sign up to that. We coordinate things through my Discord and through a website called westmarches.games. I encourage you to check out both. The link to my Discord is down below. That will just get you into like the public commons area, not the actual campaign. In terms of getting into the campaign, I make calls for new GMs and new players from time to time. Like I'll have an announcement about that coming up here in the near future. Or you could create like your own Discord or your own community on westmarches.games. You could even use it, and I've seen this already. I know there's a group on there already that they meet in person. They have a bunch of in-person players and a couple in-person GMs, and they just use the website to handle their scheduling and, the GMs posting, when they're going to run these upcoming games. Chris G, 8989, how to make skills other than perception, investigation, and arcana matter. Lots of pre-gen content almost exclusively focuses on a select few skills, leaving history, performance, and religion out. So yeah, a GM needs to include those other skills. And if a GM doesn't remember those other skills or all the different skills in the middle of the session and isn't able to, improvise that to a satisfactory manner, the GM will need to either write those into the adventure in advance, like prep those into the adventure, right? Here's a section of this adventure where there's a kind of puzzle, and history checks can give clues about this puzzle, or maybe there's some bit of historical lore or there's some poem of the land that is going to serve to the solution of the puzzle or the mystery. Religion could be a philosophical debate against a rival NPC. Performance could be used to lull a giant into sleepiness while the party then is able to sneak around and get past him. Or check this out. In my book, Esper's Emporium of Esoterica, there is a chapter called Skill Encounters, and there are simple skill encounters, such as a number of them based on animals, and they have different types of skill checks that you can use to interact with the animals or kind of go through these minor challenge situations that potentially lead to, an interesting moment or a little piece of treasure. Then there are these complex skill encounters such as labyrinth navigation, exploring a shipwreck, crossing a rushing river, a riddle door with magical eye and gargoyle, coming across a drowning ghost. So they're sort of like storytelling skill challenge based encounters. A GM could have essentially a number of ready to go skill encounters, whether they're like a random encounter roll or something that can be selected on the fly, that in advance they have already been written up with the different DCs and the different skills and what's going on in the given situation. That would be a great resource for a GM to have. HP Harrison 97. I mostly struggle just getting off the ground and getting the story and game rolling. A lot of people overthink and overcomplicate D&D. A lot of people spend much more time talking about D&D, thinking about D&D, analyzing D&D, arguing over D&D than actually playing the freaking game. So, whatever you might be, whatever one of those categories you might fall under, I suggest that you just actually play the game. Just stop overthinking it. You've spent too much time thinking about it. Just get together with your friends, bring whatever books you have. Doesn't matter if you have one book, 2 random books, just the free basic SRD, whatever you got, just get together and just play. It doesn't matter if the characters are incomplete. It doesn't matter if your GM material is incomplete. Who cares? Just play the game and just make up and fill in the blanks whenever you come to a spot that you don't have like some official rule or piece of information on your character sheet about. But what's the adventure? Open up whatever book you have, flip it to a random page. Slime Tunnel. All right, your characters have been tasked to go into this dungeon for the reason ahead of you is a tunnel full of slime. What do you do? There, you've already started playing. But it's incomplete. It's janky. It's wonky. Well, it's something. It's taking some kind of step so you can do something that vaguely resembles going on an adventure in a fantasy world, which is 100 times better than not actually playing the game. And then later, once you get some steam going, your group gets a little bit of momentum and you decide, oh, I do want to run a full, properly crafted adventure. go out and get one that's going to be more viable for you. From the official ones, maybe get like a starter set and run one of those simpler adventures, or go with an indie publisher. There's plenty of indie publishers that make really cool adventure modules. I'm also working on a free adventure that's going to be coming out very soon, and I'll be putting out this free adventure module sometime soon here, and I'll make a video about it. So look out for that, and that's another way to, have a published, already crafted, put together adventure module to run. But yeah, stop thinking about playing D&D and just play some D&D, even if it's imperfect. Grinning Goblin 3698. Right now, I'm struggling to transition from the episodic first act of a campaign into the intrigue, cults, and mystery second act of the campaign. This is a contemporary horror game. The idea was to do a few episodic monster hunts while seeding clues, but it's taking way longer than expected, and not enough clues are being found. So I'll tell you straight away here, things almost always take longer than expected when it comes to RPGs. Whether you're going to sit down and really prep a whole adventure, and then the setup time when you get together for the session, and then the actual playing of the adventure, all these things generally take longer than what we anticipate. So keep that in mind going forward, that things are going to take longer than what they seem on paper. Another important point here is that if a clue is absolutely necessary in order for the game to progress forward, then there should not be a chance that the players completely miss it. If you have certain clues or just any kind of thing in an adventure where thing is 100% necessary or like mostly necessary, otherwise the whole thing just grinds to a halt, then there really should not be this chance that the party, completely misses it or completely fails it. Now, you can have stuff like that at the end of an adventure, but not at the beginning and probably not in the middle. So maybe if they fail their skill check or their investigation or whatever the mechanic is in your system, they don't just completely miss the clue totally. Maybe they suffer some kind of painful loss, or there's a negative consequence, or some kind of setback, or a plot complication, or maybe they get inaccurate information, or they misinterpret something, or like there's some piece of it that's flawed, and then later on that's going to come back to bite them in the ass, and there's like this detrimental twist, or there's like some greater danger that they're going to be up against because they didn't fully get the clue correct, even though they got it correct enough in order for the story to actually advance. And then save the skill checks or the decision points that are like, you got to get this, otherwise this whole thing is a failure. Save that more towards the end, towards the climax. Jabroni Jones 90, finding good people to play with at all. Okay, yeah, that's a general problem. That's just kind of a general human problem for all social activity. You might just need to assemble your own D&D group yourself. You might just need to be completely proactive, grassroots, buy your own bootstraps, go out and find people to assemble your D&D group. And what you really might need to do is, instead of, directly seeking D&D players, actually seek people that mesh with you. Seek out people that you get along with well, or people that are like cool, trustworthy, whatever it is that they fit you well. And then see if you can get those people interested in trying out D&D. Maybe they've never even tried D&D before, and that's totally fine. You might come into a situation where there's like 3 new people that you meet, but you end up clicking with those people and they're cool as friends, and you're teaching them how to play D&D for the very first time. And maybe you don't even know how to play that much D&D, and that's fine. Just try it. Play your incomplete, imperfect, somewhat wonky D&D session, but there's going to be this spark of something great in there. There's going to be this seed of wondrous adventure that gets planted, and that's awesome. And that one little flame is enough. Just get that one little bit of greatness from a session, that one moment that you got a glimpse into this incredible world of imagination, and that can be enough to really unlock something great that is going to grow and develop over time and become something that's more fleshed out, more of like a proper D&D campaign. And I will also mention one more time my Discord, the link's down below. That link will get you to the common public area, and then from time to time I make calls for new GMs and new players for Myriad Legends, our Living World community campaign, which has really cool adventures and GMs and is just overall a really cool community. Thank you everyone who's commented on my post. If I didn't read your comment, I would like to make more of these videos, so maybe I'll get to your comment in another video. Hopefully this was useful and interesting for you, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. May your adventures be many.